Hi, this is Mike Veny, and something you should know about me is that I'm really purpose driven in all aspects of my life. I do things very intentionally, and this is helping me right now as I am the CEO of Lovely Refinement, a women's mental health and wellness brand, because I don't really have a connection to it other than the mental health and wellness. And it's my job to really lead with purpose to keep everyone on the same page as we work to grow this brand and get it to more people. And you need purpose because there's this quote that I love from Brian Kozlow, I think his name is. The name of the book is 365 Ways to Become a Millionaire. And the quote is, let's see if I can do this. Burnout is not a result of being too busy. It's an indication of a lost sense of purpose and a lack of fulfillment. When both purpose and fulfillment are present, you are in a state of wholeness and burnout cannot exist. I love that quote. And purpose-driven leadership is important for burnout, as is other things, but we're going to learn about like what it really is today. We're going to learn about why it's important for your organization and how to cultivate it within yourself. Now, let me go into this by saying there's a difference between passion and purpose. And some people get a little uncomfortable when I talk about this, but it's really important that we talk about it because we live in this world where people say things like, follow your passion. And I'm a big believer in that's actually inaccurate information, and it's confusing people because people don't hear passion when people tell them to follow their passion. They hear pleasure. So they want to do work that feels good. Now, granted, work shouldn't feel toxic, but it's not going to feel good most of the time. If you look at history, even people who did amazing things in this world weren't feeling good all the time. And that'd be kind of weird if you were always just happy at work. That's why it's important to understand that you need to know the difference between passion and purpose. And in my opinion, purpose is more important to focus on because the byproduct is passion. So stay with me here because I'm going to be giving you a lot of information around this. And it's an important topic. It's one of my favorite topics to cover, actually. So I might go a little longer than I want. And I'm here getting coffee with you because it's called Coffee with Mike. And the coffee that I'm drinking is Greenwood Lake Sumatra and Colombia blend. Greenwood Lake Coffee Roasters from Greenwood Lake, New York. They are not sponsoring this show in any way. They're just getting free advertising because their coffee is incredible. And I have a home here in the Hudson Valley, and this is where my studio is. And so I got to get my Greenwood Lake coffee because Greenwood Lake coffee is the place to go to. So encourage you to check them out. You can buy their coffee online. So let's dive deep into this topic here on purpose-driven leadership. Purpose-driven leadership is a leadership philosophy, let's say, where the leader is guided by a clear sense of purpose. Easy, right? Something bigger than profits, though, titles or personal gain. It's about aligning decisions, strategies, and behaviors with deeply held values and a mission that inspires both the leader and the people that they lead. And it's all about having clarity of purpose because sometimes, you have like a company mission statement and people don't even really understand what it means. So it's important to be really clear about your purpose. And some people will tell you that a purpose is different than a mission statement, but a mission statement is a good place to start. But getting clear on what your purpose is a component of this purpose-driven leadership. It's important to stay true to your values and the organization's values at the same time. When you are engaged in purpose-driven leadership, it leads to inspiration and motivation, sustainable impact, resilience, and trust. And I want to share a story about this because sometimes we all get distracted. And I'd be the first one to tell you that it's a thing that happens every single day, every single hour, every 5 minutes with me getting distracted. Even right now, I'm a little distracted with some other things because I actually heard a sound in the background that Krisa, our producer, might send me a little message about, and hopefully I won't have to re-record this. But if I do, Krisa, it's okay, and I promise I will. But my assistant and I were in Georgia, and I'm not going to name the name of the organization, but I was presenting at a conference, and the person who had hired me, I guess, was talking to my assistant when I wasn't around, and basically just talking smack about me, just insulting me or belittling me. I don't know what it was, gossiping. It sounded very middle schoolish. So my assistant, trying to just protect me and be honest with me, told me what was happening. And my assistant was very bothered by the fact that this person was talking about me, especially to them directly. And just, it really irritated my assistant. And so I listened, and I tried to remind them that the important thing for us is to deliver good events. And whether someone is happy and, in my face about it, or they're talking about me behind my back, doesn't matter, actually. I mean, if there was an issue, hopefully that client would come to my face or fill out a form or an email and let me know. But at the end of the day, it was just middle school nonsense this person was engaged in. And I, as the leader here, had to get my assistant to refocus and say, at the end of the day, we can't be focused on petty nonsense. We have to be focused on delivering great events for the people that we serve. And it was a great moment for me, because I know that when I was younger, I would have been so bothered by this. I would have confronted this client. I would have probably made a fool of myself, done something ridiculous. I don't know. But because I was in touch with my company's values, I was able to bring us back to the purpose as to why we were there. As I am in the beginning of leading Lovely Refinement at the time of this recording, one of our values is perspective, and that means embracing different worldviews. So what we're doing as an organization is we're hiring clinicians, mental health clinicians, to look at our content, the articles on the website, and give us their feedback to make sure that we are providing content that is informed by mental health professionals, and we're not just irresponsibly putting whatever out there. And so it's important to me, going back to this value to embrace different perspectives, that the mental health professionals, actually anyone that we bring in on the team, is different than other people on the team. So we have people with different worldviews, dramatically different worldviews, working together. And that's intentional because it's in the values. And I know from experience, when you do that, beautiful things come out of that. People end up creating amazing things that you didn't even imagine were possible. I remember there was one where we were working on one of our courses. This is in my other company, my previous company, Veny Inc., which is on the way out the door right now, because I decided I was done with it. It wasn't part of my purpose, actually, even though it has my name on it. That was actually the problem. But that's a conversation for another day. But I remember that we had different perspectives working on a project where the editor was saying, one thing, and the person who designed the product on the team was saying something else, and they were going back and forth. They came back with a third alternative that was better than anything anyone could have come up with individually. So that's one of the reasons that we value that. And that's an example of me as a leader being purpose-driven and bringing the team together in different situations. So why is purpose-driven leadership important? Well, so many reasons. In a Deloitte Global Insights report from 2020, it said that purpose-driven companies have 40% higher levels of workforce retention than other organizations. In a Fortune.com article from June of 2025 on purpose-driven leadership, it said that purpose-driven leadership is strongly tied to business success, with top-performing organizations often ranking highest on return on leadership measures. So purpose-driven leadership is important because it leads to deep engagement, and it fuels psychological ownership. People feel like they own things in the organization in a healthy way, not like own the whole organization, unless that's the model for your organization, leading to more enthusiastic and committed employees. Also, retention. A powerful purpose keeps both leaders and staff rooted in the organization, not just financially, but emotionally. It's really important right now. Performance metrics. It's all about numbers at the end of the day. And from innovation to productivity, purpose correlates with measurable business gains. And ultimately, that also leads to cost savings, because disengagement, employees who are disengaged or quiet quitting or just done looking for another job, I mean, it's so expensive. So it drains trillions of dollars from our economy actually every year. And purpose offers a lever to reclaim billions through retention and efficiency. So how do you cultivate purpose-driven leadership within yourself? To be honest with you, I don't think we have the time to go over that. That's its own 7-day workshop right there, or actually longer than a 7-day workshop. But I want to give you some tools that we know that have worked from some of our learning experiences. The most important tool is to develop habits for yourself. So here are some habits that might help you. One is asking yourself questions so you can get in touch with your why. For years, I remember starting when I was 18, actually, I would ask myself 2 questions every morning. How can I help? How can I serve? I learned this from Deepak Chopra's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Great book, by the way, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes. And at first, I was hoping for an answer, I'd drive past a billboard or, I don't know, a message would be in the clouds that would give me the answer. How can I help and how can I serve? And there was never an answer. But for some reason, I just kept sticking with it. And as I look back at my life over the years, starting from when I was 18, I can see how my purpose developed looking back. So it's not something that you're going to get right away. You're not going to listen to this podcast episode and maybe you might, and, find your purpose, but it's something that you cultivate over time and it can evolve over time. So maybe you know what your purpose is, but in a few years that might change. So here's some questions that you can ask yourself in the morning that might help you. How can I help? How can I serve? What do I need to learn today? What do I need to give? What do I want? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want my life to look like today? How do I want to feel today? What do I want to be today? Now, these are just some examples of questions that you can start asking yourself. I encourage you to do that because it'll start getting you thinking about what's most important to you. Now, when it comes to your organization, review your organization's mission, vision, and values at the start of the workday. This has been a tool that I've used for years that has helped me stay focused even on the worst days. I start my days actually after I meditate. After I meditate, I typically get some oatmeal for breakfast. Bob's Red Mill oatmeal. That's the one I like. And apples and cinnamon. Just wanted to let you know that in case you ever want to buy me some oatmeal. Wink, wink. And I have my oatmeal and I typically open my planner and look at my mission, my vision, values at the start of the workday. And I also do it for the organization. And there's something about that that just grounds me to focus on what's most important. And don't get me wrong. After that, I might have other distractions coming at me, but by planting that seed at the beginning of the day, it sets the tone for the day. And I can look back over time. That has kept me focused on the purpose. Now, it's also important to communicate the why of the organization. And one of the lessons, I forget who I learned this from. Maybe it was Michael Hyatt. I don't know, but it could be Michael Hyatt. So if it is Michael Hyatt, thank you. And if it's not, it's someone else, then thank you. CEO stands for Chief Executive Officer, but it's really being the CRO, the Chief Repeating Officer. Because oftentimes as a CEO, your job is to repeat the values, repeat the mission, repeat the why. And that leads to purpose-driven leadership. You need that repetition and keeping the ship focused on where it needs to go. So these are some examples of how you can use tools to cultivate purpose-driven leadership in your organization, in your life. Now, very important. This is playing out right now as you are listening or watching this podcast. This podcast is called Coffee with Mike. There's so much purpose behind it. Why coffee? Because I have a history of getting coffee with people as a way to connect. Now, I know this is a one-way conversation because this is me right now just talking. And if we actually got coffee, I promise you I don't just talk the whole time. It's an exchange. I know that. I know how to listen. Just want to say. But that's one of the reasons I'm doing it, because I like getting coffee, and somehow in my mind, I'm sitting here with my coffee and I'm imagining you, and it feels like we're getting coffee together, so I can bring my best to the conversation. But let's also talk about the other part of the name of the podcast, mental wellness and belonging for leaders. These two topics are so important right now, and they're topics that I have struggled with. I've had so much struggle, and I've also thrived in those areas at the same time, mental wellness and belonging. So it's really important because so many leaders feel isolated, and I wanted them to have some tools that they may not know about. I wanted them to have some tools that they might not know about to bring their best to their work and their lives. So that's the purpose-driven leadership. We're not going to be talking about WWE wrestling in the next episode. I mean, we could, because it's my podcast, but I have to keep the purpose focused on mental wellness and belonging. So you're getting to see purpose-driven leadership in action. So here's something for you. This is actually a homework assignment I'd like you to do. And listen to this. If you took nothing else from this, just take this. Ask yourself this question: why do I lead, and who am I really serving? Now, if you ask yourself that and you don't know the answer, here's a hack question. Ask yourself instead, why is it important that I lead, and who am I really serving? If you enjoyed this podcast episode, I invite you to subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. Leave a review. Those reviews really help us get this to more people, and share it with someone who might find it useful. We will have resources for you, the show notes, and you can find that all on coffeewithmike.fm. So in summary, purpose-driven leadership is a leadership philosophy where the leader is guided by a clear sense of purpose, something much bigger than profits, titles, or personal gain. It's about aligning decisions, strategies, and behaviors with deeply held values and a mission that inspires both the leader and the people that they lead. I want to say thank you to you for taking the time to listen or watch this today. It's really important to me that I do this work, and I really appreciate you putting out that time, because I know you could be listening to anything right now or doing whatever with your time. Here's what's coming up. The art of listening, how leaders can build trust and connection. That's going to be an important one. So be sure to check that one out. Thank you so much again for being here, and I'll get coffee again with you soon.